When the HOA president tried to ban my 10-year-old superhero backpack, she didn't know I was the chief of police. She blocked my son from getting on the school bus, so I arrested her at the emergency HOA meeting in front of the entire neighborhood. The sunlight filtered softly through the windows of our new 2-story house in Oakwood Heights, glinting off polish with floors and pristine white trim. From the outside, the neighborhood looked like a picture-perfect community right out of a real estate brochure. Meticulously manicured lawns, decorative mailboxes, and houses painted in compliant shades of beige and olive lined the curving cul-de-sac. But beneath its tranquil surface, Oakwood Heights harbored a set of rigid codes, unspoken tensions, and a figurehead with a tight grip on power. We'd only been living here for 3 months, but I already had the sense that my badge and my position would eventually come into play. I'm Chief Jackson Reynolds. My wife, Clara, and I moved here hoping for a quieter life after years of city chaos. We wanted our son, Ethan, to grow up somewhere safe, stable, and structured. Oakwood Heights seemed like that place, at least on paper. We were told the HOA had strict but fair rules. Turns out that was optimistic marketing speak. We didn't expect neighborhood politics to be enforced like martial law. What none of us knew then was how far one woman, Karen Whitfield, would go to preserve her illusion of control. It was just another Wednesday morning. I kissed Claire goodbye as she headed out early for a hospital shift. Then I helped Ethan, our 10-year-old, pack his lunch, a peanut butter sandwich, juice box, apple slices. We chatted about his science project on volcanoes and which kids were sitting where on the bus that week. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. I stood on the front porch, coffee in hand, watching as Ethan slung on his birthday gift from last month, his new Marvel superhero backpack, bright red with blue trim, and emblazoned with Spider-Man. It made him smile every time he wore it. He loved it, and I loved seeing him love something innocent and silly like that. It reminded me that despite the uniform I wore, some battles in life shouldn't have to be fought. Ethan strolled to the bus stop at the cul-de-sac's edge, just a few houses down. It should have been a moment of simple peace. Instead, my phone rang within 2 minutes. I saw Ethan's name flash on the screen. "Dad!" His voice wavered. "There's a lady yelling at me about my backpack. She says it breaks the rules, and I can't wait here anymore." I stiffened. In the background, I could hear a sharp, shrill voice, authoritative and theatrical. "Put your father on speaker," it demanded. "Now!" My grip tightened on the mug. "I'll be right there, buddy. Stay where you are." I didn't need a police vehicle for this, but I grabbed my keys, heart rate steady but rising. I'd handle cartel leaders with less arrogance than the voice on that call. As I walked toward the bus stop, I spotted her, a middle-aged woman in designer athleisure, her highlighted hair sculpted in that unmistakable, "Can I speak to your manager?" bob. She's still like a general overseeing a battlefield, one hand planted on her hip, the other gesturing wildly toward my son. Ethan stood still, clutching his backpack like it was a shield. His face had the look of a kid trying to be brave, but not understanding why he was being targeted. It infuriated me in a way few things ever had. I approached calmly, tapping into the same self-control that had gotten me through years of interrogation rooms and standoffs. "Is there a problem here?" I asked, my tone even but firm. The woman spun around, eyes gleaming with entitlement. "Absolutely," she snapped. "Your son is in direct violation of Oakwood Heights community aesthetic guidelines. And you are—" Karen Whitfield, HOA president. "For 6 years," she added with the pride of someone announcing royalty. I placed a reassuring hand on Ethan's shoulder. "What exactly is a violation?" Karen yanked out her phone and scrolled aggressively. "Section 12, paragraph 3, all items visible from community property must conform to the approved earth tone palette. That backpack," she pointed like it was a grenade, "is bright red and blue, completely unacceptable." I blinked. "He's 10. It's a school backpack. Rules are rules," she declared. "The bus stop is on HOA property. If we let one child bring a garish item like that, what's next? Inflatable flamingos? Graffiti? Property values will plummet." It took everything in me not to laugh, But I saw the tension in Ethan's jaw, and I knew this wasn't a joke to him. "Miss Whitfield," I said, voice steady, "this is a temporary item. My son waits here for 20 minutes a day. His backpack is not a permanent fixture in the community. Surely we can use a little discretion." Karen's face reddened. "Don't lecture me about discretion. I've memorized every HOA bylaw. Your son either leaves the stop or I'll call community security." Security. For a child's backpack. I crouched down beside Ethan. "You're not doing anything wrong." I told him. "You wait right here like always." The rumble of the school bus echoed down the street. Karen moved, physically stepping between Ethan and the curb. "He's not getting on that bus with that thing on his back." I rose slowly. That was the moment the line was crossed. "Ms. Whitfield," I said, my voice shifting slightly into command, "I'm not just his father. I'm Chief Jackson Reynolds, Oakwood Police Department, and you are currently obstructing a child from accessing public education, which, by state law, can constitute criminal interference." Her eyes flickered, a brief tremor of doubt, but she held firm. "Being police doesn't make you above HOA law." "No," I agreed, "but it means I understand the limits of your authority. You might want to revisit them." The bus pulled to a stop with a hiss. The driver opened the doors, watching the standoff warily. "Go ahead, Ethan," I said. Karen made a grab for my arm, her acrylic nails digging into my forearm. "We're not done here," she hissed. I peeled her hand away carefully. "Don't put your hands on me again." Ethan hesitated, then stepped past her and boarded the bus. He looked back at me once, uncertain, before the door shut behind him. Karen turned her fury toward me. "You've just made a serious enemy. I'm calling an emergency HOA meeting tonight. You'll face daily fines until that child follows the rules." I stared at her. "I look forward to reviewing those rules. Specifically the parts where you claim jurisdiction over school children's belongings." She bristled. "I have discretionary power as HOA president. It falls under aesthetic integrity." "Perfect," I said, pulling out my phone. "Then you won't mind if I bring county code enforcement along. They've been eager to evaluate some of Oakwood Heights' practices for legal compliance." For the first time, Karen's faka cracked. Her jaw clenched, and she stormed back to her house without another word. I stood there alone, watching her retreat. She thought she'd won something this morning. What she didn't realize was that she'd just declared war with someone who understood both the law and how to use it. Karen Whitfield had stormed off, heels crunching down the decorative gravel path toward her overly symmetrical home, her fury trailing behind her like a bad perfume. I stood still for a moment, letting the cool morning air calm my pulse. Ethan's bus had already pulled away, carrying my son, still confused but safe, to school. I looked down at my forearm where Karen had grabbed me. Her manicured nails had left behind small, crimson arcs. The marks weren't deep, but they were telling. They were proof, physical evidence of a line she should never have crossed. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo, and immediately texted it to myself. Then I placed a quick call to someone I trusted more than any bureaucratic process. My attorney, Dennis Marlowe. "She grabbed your kid too?" Dennis asked, his tone shifting. No direct grab, but she blocked his path, physically stood in front of him. That obstruction of access to public education, Jackson, at a minimum, that's actionable under state child protection statutes. Combine that with the assault on you. "I know," I replied, already pacing the edge of the lawn. "And you have witnesses?" "Bet on it." Dennis didn't hesitate. "Start documenting everything. We might be dealing with more than harassment here." Oh, I planned to. By early afternoon, I had already spoken to two neighbors who'd watched the scene from their front windows. One had even captured a short clip on their doorbell camera showing Karen's confrontational stance and her blocking Ethan from boarding the bus. I gathered everything. Photos, video, statements, like a man prepping for a raid. Because in some ways, this was one. Only the weapon wasn't a gun or a badge this time. It was the truth. And in the right hands, truth can devastate. That evening, I arrived at the community clubhouse 20 minutes early. But this time, I didn't arrive as Jackson Reynolds, the neighbor with a calm voice and patient explanations. I arrived as Chief Jackson Reynolds, uniform crisp, badge gleaming under the lobby lights. The room quieted as soon as I stepped in. Conversation stalled. Heads turned. Karen, already posted at the front with her clipboard and oversized HOA binder, paused mid-sentence when she saw me. Her smile cracked. "Good evening," I said casually, nodding to several board members who recognized me. "I understand we're here to discuss regulations regarding school backpacks." One neighbor chuckled, not unkindly. Karen's eyes flared. "This isn't a joke, Chief Reynolds," she said with venom coating my title. "This meeting is about upholding the standards that keep Oakwood Heights desirable." "Perfect," I said, stepping forward, "because I'd like to address a few standards myself." Karen opened the meeting like a tyrant preparing for war. She launched into a carefully curated slideshow. Yes, a slideshow, projected on a small screen she had insisted the board by last year for official presentations. And what was her opening image? A zoomed-in, high-resolution photo of Ethan's Spider-Man backpack. She must have taken herself that morning, either while berating my son or right after. "This is the visual pollution we're allowing in our community spaces," she declared. She went on about community cohesion, property values, and the domino effect of rule-breaking, painting a picture of doom where every child's innocent accessory would tear the neighborhood into disrepair. The room shifted uncomfortably. Then she turned to me, arms folded smugly. "I assume you'll now ask for leniency, Chief." I stood, cleared my throat, and stepped beside projector. "No, I'm not here to ask for leniency," I said. "I'm here to address something far more serious than color palettes." The room fell completely silent. I pulled out a manila folder and opened it. This morning, Ms. Whitfield physically stood in front of my 10-year-old son and blocked his access to the school bus. That a violation of state law, specifically under educational access statutes. Furthermore, she grabbed my arm. "Here are the photos and time-stamped texts I sent to council this morning." I held up a printed photo of my arm, the red mark still fresh. Gasps rippled through the seated board members. "But this," I continued, laying out printed witness statements and a doorbell camera image of the incident, "is not isolated." I turned toward Karen. "In just the past year, I've collected 6 separate verbal statements from neighbors who've experienced excessive enforcement by the HOA under your authority. Fines for patio cushions, threats over seasonal reads, and even a written citation for a disabled veteran displaying a non-HOA-issued flag mount. These aren't rules anymore. They're weapons." Karen's face had gone white, but her mouth stayed pursed in defiance. "I have no idea what you're insinuating," she said. "I'm not insinuating. I'm stating this pattern, your pattern, is harassment, selective enforcement, and in several cases, borderline extortion." The board stirred restlessly. Several members began flipping through the HOA handbook in front of them. For the first time, they were questioning their queen. And just when the tension threatened to boil over, I said the words I knew would shift the tide. "I'm not the only guest here tonight. May I introduce Inspector Regina Davis, from County Code Enforcement." A woman in a blazer stood from back row, her ID badge visible. Karen visibly reeled. Inspector Davis stepped forward calmly. "Thank you, Chief Reynolds," she said, her tone clipped and professional. "As per state mandate, any resident may request an inspection or review of HOA policies. After an initial review of complaints and bylaws, I've identified multiple potential compliance violations." Karen rose to her feet. "This is outrageous. You can't just bring in outside officials without board approval." "Actually," Davis replied, "the state law allows any resident to request a review without prior notice. You may want to reread Article 47, subsection D of your HOA charter." One board member, an older man named Russell, nodded slowly. "She's right. I remember that clause. We voted on it last year." Karen's expression shattered. Her carefully constructed persona, forged in power and control, now had its foundation rocked. "I've done nothing wrong," she barked. "I was enforcing rules. I'm protecting this community." Davis opened her clipboard. "You threw out fines without cause. You used discretionary power to harass. And today, You physically prevented a minor from accessing a public service. This is a coup. Karen shrieked. She grabbed her heavy binder, the same one she had wielded as a weapon of authority for years, and launched it across the room. Whether it was out of anger or panic, I'll never know. But what I do know is that binder struck Inspector Davis squarely in the shoulder. The clubhouse erupted in chaos. Chairs scraped back. Neighbors gasped. Phones started recording. And I moved like the officer I am. The room crackled with tension. The heavy HOA binder, once a symbol of Karen Whitfield's unchecked dominance, lay open on the floor beside Inspector Davis's feet. Its contents scattered like the authority she had just lost. I stepped forward immediately, instincts taking over. "Ms. Whitfield," I said, voice firm, authoritative, and cold, "please place your hands behind your back." Karen staggered backward, face drained of color, the room frozen around her. "You can't be serious," she gasped. "I am. You just committed assault on a county official. And under state statute, that's a criminal offense." I pulled out my handcuffs, the weight of them heavy in the silence. The board members, the neighbors, even the longtime loyalists. No one stepped forward to defend her. No one moved to intervene. The tyrant had lost her throne. "You're under arrest," I continued, "for assault and battery on a public servant, and for obstructing a minor's access to educational transportation. You have the right to remain silent." Her eyes welled, but not with remorse, only disbelief. "You're arresting me?" she shrieked. "Me? I'm the HOA president." I finished reading her Miranda rights as I gently but firmly cuffed her wrists. "No," I said quietly. "You were—" As I walked Karen toward the clubhouse doors, the whispers behind me swelled to murmurs and then to quiet applause. Not from joy, but from long-restrained relief. It wasn't just about Ethan's backpack anymore. It was about the years of intimidation, of late-night violation notices, of arbitrary fines and weaponized rules. I paused beside the community bulletin board, the one with Karen's laminated portrait under the Golden Boss President plaque. She looked at it, horrified. "You can't do this to me. Do you know how much I've done for this neighborhood?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Behind us, a board member, Russell, spoke clearly enough for the room to hear. I motioned to hold an immediate vote on the removal of Karen Whitfield as president of the HOA. Another member added, seconded, and just like that, the spell was broken. In less than 60 seconds, the board unanimously voted to remove Karen, effective immediately. Her nameplate was unscrewed before she even made it out the front door. Outside, the flashing red and blue lights of patrol unit cast long shadows over the sidewalk. I handed her off to the arriving officers. "I'll have someone retrieve her HOA materials later," I said. "They'll be held as evidence for now." Inspector Davis stood nearby, brushing dust off her blazer. "I've seen HOA overreach before," she murmured. "But this one might make the training manuals." By morning, the entire neighborhood had changed. Word spread fast, faster than weeds through Karen's strictly monitored lawns. Residents who had previously stayed quiet out of fear began speaking up. Emails, text chains, even an anonymous Google Doc started circulating, collecting years of Karen's abuses. One neighbor shared how she had been fined for planting sunflowers without prior approval. Another revealed she'd been ordered to repaint her door after Karen deemed the shade too cheerful. A war veteran shared that his flag had been forcibly removed from his porch during Memorial Day weekend. With Karen's power gone, it was as though the community collectively exhaled. The HOA board began auditing all past fines and violations issued under her term. A formal motion was drafted to update the bylaws, specifically stripping discretionary enforcement powers from any one individual and requiring board consensus for citations. The HOA, for the first time, belonged to the community again. But the fallout for Karen? That was just beginning. 2 days later, I was having coffee in our kitchen when Clara nudged me and pointed at the television. A local news station had picked up the story. HOA president arrested after confrontation with police chief's child. The footage was damning. Karen's outburst at the meeting, her shrieked denial, her flailing arrest, and worst of all, The exact moment the binder hit Inspector Davis on camera, replayed in slow motion like a scene from a courtroom drama. Then came the real gut punch for her, the community's response. News anchors read anonymous neighbor statements on air. Local Facebook groups exploded with commentary. Karen, who once patrolled the HOA like a monarch, found herself banished from the throne and the court of public opinion. One clip showed her exiting the courthouse on bail, her posture stiff, her lips pursed in fury. She swatted away a reporter's microphone with her designer handbag, muttering, "No comment, no comment." But the camera caught it all. Karen had finally made the news, not as the keeper of community standards, but as the poster child of HOA tyranny gone wrong. Weeks passed. The grass still grew. The mail still arrived. The sun still rose. But the bus stop was quieter now. Peaceful. No shouting. No power trips. Ethan stood tall with his bright red and blue superhero backpack, now worn proudly like a badge of honor. The neighborhood children smiled more. Parents walked with their kids without fear of being fined for non-regulation sneakers. Karen, bound by court order, was restricted from coming within 100 feet of our home or my son. Her position permanently revoked. Her reputation publicly dismantled. As for the HOA, it had transformed. Meetings were now collaborative, not combative. Residents volunteered. Voices once silenced were now heard. The board even appointed Russell as interim president, an older gentleman who'd never raised his voice once, but whose wisdom now guided the group like a steady hand on the wheel. And me? I kept attending meetings, not as Chief Reynolds, but as Jackson, a dad who happened to wear a badge. And I only wore the uniform when it was truly needed. Sometimes I catch someone glancing at Ethan's backpack and smiling, not because of the colors, but because of what it represented now: freedom, innocence, the right to be a child, unburdened by the iron hand of adult egos. In the end, it wasn't about rules or even the law. It was about decency. And Karen had forgotten that. This story is a reminder of how unchecked authority, no matter how small or local, can spiral into something damaging. Rules should serve communities, not control them. And sometimes, standing up for something as simple as a child's backpack can expose everything wrong beneath the surface. So whether you're facing an HOA battle or any misuse of power, remember, truth, preparation, and calm persistence can be stronger than any bully with a rule book.